Behold Leviathan, when God talks about dragons and our limits in Job chapter 41. Hello everyone and welcome back to our deep drill discussions. We've explored Job's perfect integrity and the deep meaning of fearing God. Now let's fast forward through many chapters of Job's suffering and his friends' well-meaning but ultimately misguided advice. Job has been pleading his case, asking God for answers, for an explanation. He even wishes he could stand before God and make his argument. Then, finally, God speaks. You'd expect answers to Job's complaints, right? Explanations for his suffering? But that's not what happens. Instead, God unleashes a whirlwind of questions, culminating in this absolutely breathtaking, terrifying description from chapter 41. He talks about a creature called Leviathan. What is Leviathan? God begins by challenging Job. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? Can you put a rope through his jaw? And the questions just keep coming, describing a beast that is utterly untamable, uncatchable, beyond human control. So, what is this Leviathan? For centuries people have debated this. Is it a literal creature, a massive crocodile, a whale, some ancient sea monster? Or is it purely symbolic, representing primal chaos, untamable power, or even cosmic evil? For our discussion, it's powerful to consider both. Whether a real beast or a symbol, it represents something beyond human mastery. God is highlighting our utter helplessness against such a force. We can't tame it for sport, we can't hunt it for profit, we can't even stand before it without being cast down by its mere sight. And at the very end of the chapter, Leviathan is called a king over all the children of pride. This is a huge clue. If this creature embodies untamed, fearsome power, what does it mean that it rules over pride? It suggests that human arrogance and our desire for ultimate control are utterly futile when confronted with this level of raw, natural, perhaps even supernatural force. Why Leviathan? God's masterclass in perspective. So why does God seemingly pivot from Job's cries for justice to this vivid, almost boastful description of a terrifying beast? This is the deep drill here. God isn't trying to deflect, he's doing something far more profound, the scale of power. God is saying in essence, Job, if you can't even subdue this creature, one part of my creation, how could you possibly contend with its creator? How could you question my wisdom or demand answers from me, the one who fashioned such a being? This is a direct challenge to Job's desire to argue his case. It puts human power, human understanding, and human control into its proper, very limited context. The unknowable and uncontrollable. Leviathan embodies aspects of creation that are wild, mysterious, and utterly beyond human comprehension or control. This is God's way of reminding Job and us that there are forces in the universe and indeed aspects of God's own being that are far beyond our neat categories, our desires for logical explanations, or our attempts to impose our will. God's universal sovereignty. Just before describing Leviathan, God declares, "Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine." This is a powerful assertion. God is sovereign not just over the gentle sheep or the fertile land, he is sovereign over the wild, the chaotic, even the terrifying aspects of creation. This challenges the idea that God only controls what we find pleasant, or what fits neatly into our human understanding of good. The cosmic implications, nature's untamed majesty. The description of Leviathan is pure poetry, fire from its mouth, smoke from its nostrils, scales like tightly sealed shields, a heart as hard as stone. It's a creature of terrifying power and almost supernatural resilience. This passage pushes us to consider nature's ferocity and beauty. There's a certain majesty and even a terrifying beauty in the untamed forces of nature. Leviathan is fearsome, not good in a moral sense, yet it is part of God's creation described with an almost artistic admiration for its raw power. This challenges our often human-centric view of creation, where everything must serve a human purpose or fit neatly into our moral boxes. A world without fear. Leviathan is described as being made without fear. In a book largely about Job's fear of God, a reverent awe, this creature stands in stark contrast. It represents a raw, unbridled power that fears nothing, challenging Job's and our assumptions about vulnerability and control. The takeaway, embracing mystery, finding awe. Ultimately, the Leviathan passage isn't about giving Job a direct answer to why he suffered. Instead, it's about expanding his capacity and our capacity to live with mystery. It's about accepting the limits of human understanding and control. Sometimes the most profound answers aren't logical explanations, they are encounters with something vastly bigger, more complex, and more awe-inspiring than anything we could conceive. It's a powerful call to humility, before the unfathomable complexity and power of the universe and its creator. Our complaints, our demands for answers, and our attempts to control often seem small. It reminds us that there is majesty and even a certain terrifying beauty in the wild, untamed aspects of life, and the cosmos, not just in the neatly ordered parts we prefer. What does Leviathan represent to you? How does God's description of this creature challenge your own understanding of power and control in the world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll continue our journey into Job's response in the very next chapter.